Welcome back, everyone. Business as usual. Today, me and Damon will be recapping episode 6 of Last of Us, titled Kin. I just want to say something real quick. This is a brand new channel I started as more of a hobby, so I really appreciate everyone's support. Damon is going to be launching his own channel soon, so stay tuned for that as well. The positive comments and feedback have kept us both motivated. If you missed the recaps of the other Last of Us episodes, I got all the links in the description. With that out of the way, Damon, quick thoughts on episode 6.
Overall, I thought that this episode gets us closer and closer to the emotional core of what the show is really trying to get at. And you also do get a lot of the kind of in-between travel exposition things, but they spice it up. So it's not as boring as it would be in other aspects. Definitely a nice episode to keep you on your toes, and it does leave us with a bit of a cliffhanger towards the end that we'll get at, but I was pretty happy with it.
We opened up with a flashback of Henry shooting himself in episode 5. Thanks a lot, HBO, for reminding us. Then we cut to the snowy tundra of the Pacific Northwest, where a man returns to his cabin after hunting some rabbits. At first, he sees his wife in the rocking chair, but then Joel comes out with a gun pointed at him. The couple exchange a few funny lines, and it's obvious that the wife doesn't view Joel as a threat. Ellie then emerges from the shadows with her gun pointed as well. Joel asks the man what they are, and then asks if they have seen Tommy. We find out that the old couple have lived in this area way before the outbreak started. There is a river out west that is known to them as Death River, and there are always bodies of infected and other dead people there. The couple warns Joel and Ellie not to go, but obviously it doesn't work. Joel and Ellie then leave the cabin and head towards the river. Ellie steals the man's rabbits as Joel has a panic attack. The PTSD is catching up to him. Ellie panics when she sees Joel in the state because if Joel dies, she's fucked as well. The two of them keep trekking towards the River of Death, and we get some spectacular shots of the Northwest. Fuck, it's beautiful. Brings joy to my cold black heart. They end up setting camp near the river, and Joel uses duct tape to fix his boots. Ellie is looking up at the Aurora Borealis, which is what I see every time I trip mushrooms. Joel actually shares some of his booze with Ellie at night. She's not a fan of the liquor. Ellie wonders what will happen if this all works out. What if her blood does end up making a successful vaccine? What will they do? Joel reveals that he would love to have a ranch and raise sheep and live a quiet life. Ellie says that she read a shit ton of books on astronauts when she was in the QZ, and Sally Rider's her favorite. Space travel is a passion of hers. She then reveals to Joel that she tried to use her blood on Sam's wound, and obviously it didn't work. Joel tells Ellie that Marlene is a lot of things, but no fool, and he believes that the Fireflies can pull this shit off. Joel takes over the watch for the night, and he insists on doing both shifts, even though Ellie offers to help. Let me take a break here and let's discuss.
I love the walk-up scene on the way to the cabin because we really get an idea of the imagery they're exploring as they go out towards Wyoming. Another thing that you noted that I think is important to kind of get into is the fact that the couple never views Joel and Ellie as a true threat because I think they can tell that they're kind of good people. And there are a lot of themes and motifs in this episode that kind of connect to the idea of what makes someone a good person. Can you change? Can you become a good person? Do you get to a point where you do so many bad things that is what you are, so you are bad? So I thought that was kind of interesting. We also have some really nice comedic lines from this couple. Who's this little psycho? And came here before you were born, Sonny really stood out. It's kind of a cool thing to also note that they mentioned all the Native American reservations are overrun, and the mention of the reservations kind of sent me down a rabbit hole with some research. And these actors are actually both played by Indigenous people, which is super cool. I thought the panic attack and the PTSD that Joel experienced are kind of showing the toll that he's been running up really since the death of his daughter, and maybe even before that for all we know, right? It seems like he has this sort of sensitivity now when the idea of like loss, death, chaos, basically him having to shoulder the whole load for the team like he's been doing a lot lately, just brings him to his knees, which is really sad to see and everything related to that.
The next morning, Joel is passed the fuck out. So much for doing both shifts. Fortunately, Ellie took over the watch, and to be honest, she's looking pretty badass with the rifle in hand. Let the old man get his beauty sleep. They post up at the river, and Joel fires a warning shot into the air to see who jumps out. Nothing happens, and the two cross the bridge. Side note, the bridge is very well maintained for this post-apocalyptic world. Ellie asks Joel to teach her how to hunt, and he kind of brushes her off, which doesn't make sense to me because you gotta prep the kid for survival in case you kick the bucket. They approach this big dam that's still in working condition and keep walking along this other river. All of a sudden, they are surrounded by a bunch of armed cowboy-looking motherfuckers on horseback. They send over a dog to check on Joel and Ellie. If they are infected, the dog will smell it and rip them apart. This is literally how I feel when I sneak through the airport with weed. Joel passes the test, and then the dog moves on to Ellie. It's a nerve-wracking moment because Ellie is immune, but the dog might not know that. Anyway, she passes the test, and Joel tells the armed cowboys that he's looking for Tommy. One of the women on horseback takes interest in this and asks Joel for his name. We then cut to the people on horseback escorting Joel and Ellie into this gated commune. Good time to take a break.
One thing to point out that they've been doing a lot with these aspects of pitfalls and calamity the show has built in, whether it was the cordyceps underground explosion fest of last episode, or whether it's the fact that Sam was in fact actually infected at the end of last episode. This river has us on our heels, thinking, what could it be? Is this like something connected with the cordyceps, something connected with like raiders? Really neither. There's probably some more to it that kind of exists in there, but it seems like it may have been a little trumped up to kind of like get people to stay away from the commune area we're about to enter. High intensity and eerie moments, especially when you see the dog go up to Ellie and you know it doesn't actually get triggered, which means that Ellie's got to have something to her that throws off the scent in terms of her DNA, in terms of what this is actually showing, because clearly she's not even falling under the same category as other infected.
We cut to this gated commune in Jackson, Wyoming, where the people have found a way to build their own self-sustaining society. We see wood being chopped, various shops, everything you basically need. Joel spots Tommy, and the two of them share a brotherly embrace. It's one of the few moments so far where Joel shows true emotion. We then cut to the dining hall where Tommy, Joel, Ellie, and the woman are hanging out. Joel and Ellie are ravenously eating their first good meal in forever. Ellie's table manners leave a lot to be desired, but remember, she's a QZ kid. She's rough around the edges. Tommy tells him that the commune purposefully leaves bodies of infected and raiders out near the riverbank to deter intruders. Joel asks for some privacy with just family, but Tommy channels his best Vin Diesel impression by saying that Maria, which we learned is the woman's name, is family. So basically they're married or at least together. Joel is completely shook and doesn't know how to handle the info. Tommy then gives them a tour of the commune. We get the backstory from Maria. This commune was started about 7 years ago, and it was built off of the remnants of a gated community. They even have working sewage, plumbing, and heat. As they are walking through the livestock area, Maria tells them that they have a democratically elected council to serve the 300-person commune. Everything is shared, so they are communists technically. This part is funny because Joel and Tommy are fucking Texans, so the realization that he's a communist kind of rattles Tommy. Maria then suggests that they put Joel and Ellie in one of the empty houses that is in good condition and has heat going. She then takes Ellie while Joel and Tommy go off to catch up in private. So I'm going to take a break right here.
What really stands out about our new setting here is the fact that it is just so vastly different from the other societies we've seen created. We did have the mention of the fact that it is technically communism, which we do expect Tommy to be more of a libertarian type, so I understand why he would react like that. But the vibe is just more peaceful than everywhere else. And I think that's because there's like an agreed upon system. Things seem to work really well. Are there still like public hangings and such? We didn't really get to see any of that, so it's possible. I mean, it sounds like they do still have enemies. It's not like it's a total utopia. It's this little kind of castle in the clouds that can't be touched by the world around it based on the setup. It's great that they have it, don't get me wrong, but there's simply no chance at actually pushing forward progress elsewhere if you just kind of remain in this comfortable zone. So it automatically seems like Joel is looking, cagey as hell when he shows up in there, which is understandable, especially with the Maria thing. Really cheerful reunion with Joel and Tommy. Joel definitely feels kind of shunned. You can tell by his facial reactions in a lot of the scenes, especially when he, provides the, can we talk as a family? And it basically gets brushed aside and then it turns into a walking tour. So we can already see that Tommy is not quite under Joel's thumb or following his big brother leadership as he did before. Based on what we know about him and what we've seen him do in the past, seems like he's grown up a little bit.
The two bros catch up at the bar. I wonder if there's any Hennessy left in this world. Tommy tells Joel that he's aged in dog years. Joel is clearly kind of mad that Tommy is enjoying his life so much up in the commune. He lies to Tommy about Tess, saying that she's still doing fine. Joel also tells Tommy about Ellie, saying that she's the daughter of a Firefly and that he's transporting her to the Fireflies out west in exchange for payment. So Joel's not telling Tommy the truth right now. Tommy says the Fireflies have a base at the University of Eastern Colorado. It's about a week's horse ride south, but it's a dangerous-ass journey from the commune to there. Joel tries to get Tommy to come with him, but Tommy says no. Tommy tells Joel that Maria is already a few months pregnant, and since he's going to be a father, he has to take fewer risks. This hits Joel hard, because remember, he had to watch Sarah die in his arms. Also, you can tell Joel feels betrayed, because even though the commune's rules prevented Tommy from reaching out to Joel via radio, Joel feels like since they're a family, Tommy should have found a way. And to be honest, I agree with Joel on this one. He's your fucking brother, Tommy. You gotta find a way to let him know you're okay. You can't have Joel think you're dead for the rest of your life. Just complete immaturity from Tommy. We also find out that Joel and Tommy did some heinous fucking things together back in the day. The scene ends with Joel storming out of the bar, and he has another panic attack. As he's holding on to a pole for support, he sees a girl who resembles his dead daughter, Sarah. Just a complete mindfuck for our boy Joel. Let's take a break right here.
First off, love the old-timey country bar setting. Definitely a good spot. Surprised they still had all that liquor available, but, to the victors go the spoils. This is mainly about the relationship between Joel and Tommy, right? There's almost that vibe you get in a mafia movie or like The Sopranos, where someone tries to get out of the game and everybody who's still in the game kind of gives them the side eye and like are you sure about that? You sure you're going to make it out? This is how I feel about Joel and Tommy right now, where clearly Tommy's trying to distance himself from the things they did and honestly kind of hinting that Joel had a bigger role than he did, which isn't totally fair because Joel was a huge leadership figure for Tommy earlier in his life. We saw that guy in the season premiere, couldn't handle a disaster scenario if it bit him in the ass, right? But he does come to a point where he's kind of out. He's kind of grown up. He's doing his own thing. He's doing his own life. And Joel wasn't expecting that. I think Joel was looking forward to being the guy with the answers and the guy with the plan and the guy who was going to guide Tommy to safety. And when he didn't find that, I think that kind of sent him spiraling a little bit more, which is why you see that reaction that you pointed out after the scene and kind of why shit hits the fan mentally in his head.
We now cut to Ellie, who is coming out of the shower. No, I'm not trying to be fucking weird, you bastards. That's literally what she's doing. Anyways, Ellie finds a change of clothes on the bed as well as a menstrual cup. As we learned in episode 3, tampons don't come easily in this world. There's a note on the bed from Maria that says, "I'm across the street." Ellie gets changed and goes to see Maria. When she arrives, she notices a chalkboard with 2 names on it along with dates. One reads Kevin while the other is Sarah. The dates are obviously when they were born and when they died. Yikes. Maria gives Ellie a jacket and some new shoes, then low-key disses her haircut. As Maria is giving Ellie a trim, they chat a bit. We learn that Maria was an assistant DA in Omaha, Nebraska before the outbreak. Whenever I hear Omaha, I just think about Peyton Manning. Omaha! Omaha! Maria tells Ellie that the names on the chalkboard are for her son Kevin as well as Joel's daughter Sarah. This is the first time Ellie learns of Sarah. Maria claims that Tommy followed Joel back in the day and Joel was the bad influence that led to them killing people. Ellie gets defensive about Joel. They get into a little back and forth, but it's more just like lighthearted verbal sparring. Maria ultimately tells Ellie to be careful who she puts her faith in because the only people who can betray her are the ones that she trusts. Maria then takes Ellie to the movies. Yes, the commune has a theater. No titles after 2003 though. Anyways, Ellie is struggling to have fun and let loose at the theater. It's clear that she doesn't fit in with the other kids. She's seen too much. So what you think about that scene?
I think it says a lot that they transition right from Joel having a small panic attack, flashbacks, sort of a hallucination that perhaps it could be his daughter that he sees, when really like he's kind of just thinking about, what if I still had that life? Damn, like I lost that. Right into the idea of this Ellie Maria session where we learn more about Maria's past. She's not super receptive to Joel. It kind of seems like Tommy's told her his side of the story, and Maria's determined Joel is the bad influence, which may or may not be true. I mean, older brothers kind of, roll the dice when it comes to that. But then we have the chalkboard memorial, right? So we see Maria's got a kid that didn't make it, just as Joel has the same thing. And Tommy being thoughtful enough to put those up there, like shows that, Tommy is now a supportive guy, which is a huge switch up from what we're used to, but he's grown quite a bit, it seems. There is just kind of the idea of dealing with past trauma. Maria's past trauma coming from the loss of her child seems to come in the form of outward compassion, right? She seems to care a lot about others, runs a tight ship, but ultimately she's done a lot of good for people. Where when we see how it's come through with Joel, not quite the same. Similar to last episode, like with Kathleen processing her trauma in like also a pretty shitty way last time around, where you kind of have a sliding scale of how people are actually dealing with stuff.
We now see Joel in one of the shops working on trying to fix his boot. Tommy pulls up and drops a pair of new boots for Joel. Tommy apologizes for what he said to Joel at the bar. Joel then goes off on a gut-wrenching monologue where he tells Tommy the truth about everything. Shout out to my man Pedro Pascal for lead acting. Joel basically summarizes the entire season so far for Tommy. Marlene had Joel and Tess take Ellie to the west. Tess got infected, but Ellie is immune. They made it to Kansas City where Ellie saved Joel's life. 5 years ago, Joel would have fucked that kid up, but now that he's too slow and deaf to defend himself, a 14-year-old Ellie had to save his ass. Joel then saw Henry kill his own brother trying to save Ellie. When Joel saw the dog sniffing Ellie, he was terrified to lose her. He felt helpless and couldn't move. He was paralyzed by fear. Joel admits to Tommy that he's weak. He finally feels fear and it's crippling him. He can no longer handle things the way that he used to. His dreams are incoherent, but he wakes up with a feeling of failure. Joel is worried that he's going to get Ellie killed, so he begs Tommy to take her. Tommy is still young and strong, so he has to be the one to take Ellie. Joel begs Tommy not to tell anyone about Ellie's condition, not even Maria. It'll be the last thing Joel ever asks of Tommy. Joel's monologue moves Tommy, and he agrees to take Ellie out at dawn. Wow, that was emotional. Let's break here.
We really get to see how things are under the hood for Joel right now. We know the man's hurt, and we know he's been through a lot, but this little truth session, vent session, if you will, really clarifies a lot for us. It all comes down to fear. In the words of Dune, fear is the mind killer, right? But fear in general. At the end of the last episode, we saw Sam talking to Ellie about, the idea of being scared. The idea, aren't you scared? Like, I can't tell if you're scared or not. And like being scared of becoming one of the infected. And then we see that brought over here again. I think we see it at least once an episode. Someone's fear is confronted very deeply in a certain way. I'm a little disappointed that he sort of guilts Tommy into accepting this because he now knows Tommy has a kid on the way. I get Tommy's the best guy for the job, but at the same time, like, keep Tommy's life in perspective too and kind of note the fact he's got something to live for as well. It's not like he's just a body out there, right? And they have their roles being reversed, right? Tommy is now the rescuer. Joel is now the one looking for help, which is a huge different swing than we expected, honestly, coming into this scene and into this show in general. Probably the best scene of the episode, in my opinion.
Joel returns to the house that he and Ellie are staying at. He goes into Ellie's room to tell her that Tommy will be taking her to Colorado. Ellie is reading the diary of the girl who used to live there. Apparently, she was eavesdropping on Tommy and Joel's convo. She's obviously upset and hurt because Joel wants to leave her. They get into a classic father-daughter type of argument. Ellie yells at Joel, "Do you even give a shit about me or not? What are you so afraid of?" Joel gives the classic, "I'm doing this for your own good" response, which doesn't work with Ellie. She brings up Sarah and that triggers Joel deeply, but Ellie says she's lost people too. And Joel responds with, "You have no idea what loss is." This pisses Ellie off and she shoves Joel and tells him everybody that she's cared for has either died or left her. Everybody except for Joel. She would only feel more scared with anyone else. Great points. Fuck, man. This is just elite acting from both of these Game of Thrones alumni. Joel is a stubborn man. He tells Ellie she's right, she's not his daughter. Come dawn, they will go their separate ways. Then he leaves the room and slams the door. Come on, Joel. Come on, man. As he's sitting in his room by himself, he has some flashbacks of his daughter, Sarah. The pain is palpable on his face. Let's take a break and discuss that little interaction there.
You just got to be more considerate, man. Like, I get that he's going through shit, but so is Ellie, so is everybody. It's not like anyone's lived a good life. For these two to be able to survive as like the duo that runs the show and leads everything through and like has that bond relationship at the core, there's got to be some mutual respect at some point. But, Joel's definitely still running from the past, right? Is it failure? Is it trauma? Is it specific trauma, dealing with the fact that it's the girl that he's looking after now is close to the age that his daughter might have been or was at that kind of time, right? Probably all the above in some way. He's such an asshole, but we still need it, though. I mean, this is what drives the show at this point. You need to have some emotional complexity within your protagonist, and I think Joel delivers that pretty handily in this episode, and the writers really came through on it.
The next morning, Tommy arrives to take Ellie to a freshman orientation at Eastern Colorado University. As they walk to the stables, Joel is already there. Apparently, the old man has changed his mind. He tells Ellie that she deserves a choice, and she immediately chooses Joel to take her. Joel and Ellie get on the horse and head out to Eastern Colorado. Tommy and Joel share one last brotherly hug. Joel gets the rifle from Tommy, and then he and Ellie set off for college. We then cut to Joel teaching Ellie how to shoot the rifle on their way to Colorado. "I wish my dad would have done that for me." On the trek to Colorado, Joel teaches Ellie about what society was like before the outbreak. He mentions that he was a contractor before the outbreak, and he straight up caps and says everyone loves contractors. Ha, everybody fucking hates contractors because they have you by the balls, and they can take as long as they want with the project. Corrupt bastards. Anyways, Joel also educates Ellie on how American football works. No mention of CTE, though. They make it to eastern Colorado in about 5 days, but the city is eerily empty. This is obviously a very bad sign. As they ride through the abandoned campus, Ellie learns a bit more about college life from Joel. Joel also admits to Ellie that when he was young, he wanted to be a singer. They ride closer into the heart of the campus and we see some wild monkeys running around. Monkeys are low-key dangerous as fuck, by the way. Joel ties their horse to a tree and they explore the inside of a campus building that has the Firefly graffiti tag on it. The inside of the building has a bunch of abandoned medical supplies and equipment, and it's obvious the Firefly doctors were once here. Joel finds a packing list suggesting that the Fireflies have moved out. The two of them then hear some noises upstairs and they go upstairs to explore, and they find that it's just a wild monkey. Inside the room, they see a map outlining where the Fireflies went. It looks like they packed up and headed to Salt Lake City in Utah. Everything seems all good, and then all of a sudden they hear voices of raiders outside. They peek out the window and see 4 raiders with baseball bats walking around. Fuck. The two quickly leave the building and run to the horse to try and escape. As Joel is untying the horse, one of the raiders sneaks up on him and narrowly misses hitting him with the baseball bat. The bat breaks in half on the tree, and Joel ends up snapping the man's neck. The man did manage to stab Joel in the stomach with the broken end of the bat. Joel pulls out the bat from his stomach and blood pours out profusely. I'm no medic, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to leave it in until you can stabilize the bleeding, but what the fuck do I know? Joel is losing blood and the remaining 3 raiders are sprinting over. Ellie sees this, gets Joel on the horse, and they escape just in time. She fires a few shots, but doesn't hit any of them. Although they get away, the blood loss is too much for Joel, and he collapses on the ground. Ellie is trying to stabilize the bleeding and wake Joel up. She tearfully begs for him to stay alive, and the scene fades out to a Depeche Mode song. Sheesh, what an episode.
It was really cool to see Tom and Joel move on good terms, right? You see that he's still got a place for him. They give each other some shit. Shout out to both these guys for acting their asses off together, honestly. For the limited amount of screen time they've had together, they have a lot of chemistry, and I think it makes a lot of these scenes work really well. Happy that Ellie got her first choice as well, and that her and Joel kind of hit the road. When they pull up and shoot the guns, toss on some ear protection, guys. No wonder Joel's going deaf. Like, that's crazy. You can't just be firing rifles off and handguns like that at such close range with no ear protection. Come on, guys. Be better. Ellie's got a keen interest on how things used to work in the past. You can tell that she longs for what society was and not what it is, which is only natural because, I mean, it's kind of a hellscape right now. The set pieces have been so impressive just to capture the sheer impact that an apocalypse would have in a different essence to each area, right? We've seen city, we've seen countryside, we've seen suburb. Now we're sort of getting a college-y laboratory kind of aspect out west, so it's a different feel to it. It's not like we're watching the same cookie cutter thing over and over again. These places have differences and you can feel it. And I think that's what makes each episode feel so different from the previous one. They definitely have the video game aspect of the abrupt leaving, right? We're going someplace, 3 months later, we're here, next level. They've migrated to this area. We now have to go to this base to find where they are, right? Next episode, you know we're going to get a big Ellie episode. This is a kid who spent her whole childhood basically walled away. I don't want to make a lazy comparison, but it gives you some Stranger Things vibes, right? Like 11 being held in like the behind these security closed doors underneath the ground bunkers for her whole life, like that kind of idea. So we're gonna see what we can judge up from that. Huge Joel and Ellie episode. The connection took a few more episodes to like build between the two, but this is very believable, and we're in the territory now where it's not wait and see. It's we're seeing it. It's actually paying off. We do see Gia from Euphoria in the next episode as the lead next to Ellie and a lot of those scenes in the mall, which is going to be really cool. Depeche Mode, man. You know, 80s means bad news, no matter what rendition it is.
All right, that's it for episode 6. Looking forward to episode 7. We'll be back to cover that as well. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe. And thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys later.